Public Works meeting. The meeting will commence at 4 o'clock, which is right now. Kim, can you start the roll call?
Chair Barrientos,
Here.
Councillor Blosser,
Here.
Councillor Briggs,
Here.
Councillor Jantz.
Here.
Can we have a motion to approve the February meeting minutes?
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
And anyone say no? The yes have it. I'll turn over the meeting to Gary Marks for comments.
Good afternoon. It's good to be with you as always. So I believe you're all aware that my retirement is coming right up. And so if you look at the calendar, this is my last meeting with you in this committee. And with that in mind, I wanted to give you, without getting too far into the weeds, a fairly exhaustive yet brief account of where we've been this fiscal year, projects completed, projects currently in the works, and other projects that are underway and will project into the next fiscal year. So I'm going to start off with projects that we've completed. Some of you are aware that the city's 6.4 acre poplar farm has now been reclaimed. We went through a reclamation process with that. That finished up this fiscal year. I believe the property now is, arrangements have been made for the adjacent farmer to take that property over into their farming operation. So that's the first project done. Of course, I know you're aware of the Japanese Garden and Bridge, a really great improvement for the city. The Siebert Frederickson shelter at City Park got a new roof. We acquired a new truck for the Parks Department. It's got the snowplow on it. It replaces our 2000 Ford. The UV disinfection system project was completed, and we're already seeing, it's obvious in the billings that we're seeing now that we're going to have significant energy savings and cost savings from that effort. When the treatment plant was last remodeled in a major way, right around 2000, 2001, the control building had envisioned an office for the plant manager. Due to costs, that office was eliminated, and since then, the plant manager has had their office in the staff break room, which doubled as the manager's office, and the break room was kind of awkward. So this year we completed an addition to the control building for a small office at the wastewater treatment plant. We replaced the headwork screen at the plant. That's where when the wastewater comes into the plant, there's a screen that catches all the big stuff that had pretty much been worn into tatters, and we replaced that this year. Which is not an insignificant effort to do that. Out on River Drive, we have a lift station for the sewer system that some years ago in a snowstorm, I'm told that a car careened off the road and wiped out the lift station. And as our then staff put it back together, they kind of jerry-rigged a control panel that kind of controlled it and didn't really. So this year we replaced that control panel with a real one. So we're all grown up on the lift station now. The Clay Street Reservoir Repair and Cover Project, those of you who were on the council a couple years ago are aware that we had developed a leak in one of the reservoir cells on Clay Street, and we were losing about 150,000 gallons a day. So that project is all but wrapped up right now. We have some administrative stuff to clean up on that, but the reservoir is back in service and not losing water. Also, we finished up the Mercer Reservoir Fish Passage project, which was a project that was funded by the state of Oregon. Now fish in the reservoir have safe passage downstream over the top of the dam into a splash pool. We replaced our 2006 case backhoe with a new case backhoe just very recently. Also, more recently was the replacing of our 1998 Ford 5-yard dump truck with a 2025 model the same. And then we installed a fuel tracking system for our fleet division where all of our public works fuel up. And in the past, it was literally a handwritten process where people would log their what they were taking and so forth. And as you can imagine, it wasn't real accurate and lots was missed. So now we have this new system that tracks all of that for us.
Is that with Pacific Pride, Gary?
Pardon me?
Isn't that with Pacific Pride? Or is that our own gas?
It's our own.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then we recently had an OSHA consultation, which is where you invite OSHA into your facility. We invited them into our water treatment plant to point out to us where we could improve on safety. It also, doing that buys us a short period of time where there won't be a surprise inspection. And through that process, we identified a lack of adequate rescue equipment to get people out of, or our workers out of the filter basins when they were doing work down there and became injured. So now we just purchased and installed what's called a Davit system, which is basically a hand-cranked hoist that will remove people out of the basin. So those are our completed projects so far this fiscal year. And as we come barreling into the last of the fiscal year, it's shaping up as probably the most active summer for the Public Works Department in, I think, anybody's memory. So I'll just run through this as quickly as I can without getting too much into the weeds. So I think we're all aware of our ADA ramp and our street improvements over by the high school and the elementary school. We are opening bids this Thursday on that project, and we have a construction window for the time that the kids are out of school, which is June 16th through September 1. So Michael Pierce is managing that project for us, so I believe we're in capable hands with him on that. That will improve Ash Street there in front of, well, the Ash Street's already been improved, but we'll be installing ramps all along Ash Street in proximity to the school. Holman Street will also get new sidewalks and some new ramps. And then Howe Street, which is a block over, there's 2 blocks of Howe just south of Miller Avenue that will be rehabbed along with ADA ramps for that street as well.
School district on to do?
Yes, it's a partnership.
Okay.
With the school district sharing the cost. We are managing the project, though. Okay, so we are currently in the midst of updating our water master plan, and it looks like that's going to be completed by June 30th or the end of this fiscal year. And what we're doing, we're updating both the water and the sewer with anticipation of looking at our systems development charges. You have to have up-to-date master plans that show your master plan CIPs, which is different than your budget CIP, but the CIP that is the capital improvement plan that is in your master plan is used to determine in the calculations for your SDCs. We've not updated our SDC fees for quite a while, so this will help us do this probably in the next year or two. We'll be in a position to be able to do that, which I'll just skip down to the sewer master plan update, which is also underway right now. It will take a little bit longer than the water, and I'm projecting that will be done by the end of this calendar year. So we're also looking at the Ash Street water line project, which is extending the major transmission line that comes off of the Clay Street Reservoir Complex. We did a phase 1 a year and a half ago with our own internal crews. The next step of this between Fairview and Main Street, going down Ash Street, is much more complicated as far as installation. So we will be contracting that out to a contractor. But at this time, we've awarded a contract to Jacobs Engineering, and they are developing the design for that project. And I'm projecting construction in fiscal year 26-27. In other words, get the design done going into this new fiscal year. The year after that, I believe we'll be into construction. So next one up, water plant filter project. That's a project where by updating the design of our filters in our filter basins, we can gain 20 to 30% more water processing capacity, which buys us about another 10 years in our growth projections for the community. That buys us precious time to take a bigger look at the water plant and what needs to be done going into the future. But at this point in time with that project has been awarded to J.W. Fowler, and we're having a pre-construction meeting tomorrow with the contractor on that project, and that project will be getting underway as we get into the new fiscal year and should be completed into this coming fall. We also are looking at a project on Douglas Street to replace the water main that runs pretty much the entire length of Douglas. That's a line that in the past year or two we've had a number of breaks, and our crews have been out there often fixing that. It's just reached its end of life. So we'll be replacing that water line. We had budgeted $1 million for that project. We recently opened bids, and we're pleased to find the low bid was $413,000. And other bids tracked closely above it, so we believe it's a solid bid. So we feel good about that project, and that'll be getting underway soon. The Levens and Ellendale intersection over by the elementary school. That is a project that's a bit of a challenge. Again, Michael Pierce is managing that project. A bit of a challenge because of when we were notified of the funding award. ODOT let us know, I think that was like February or so of that project. From that point forward, we had to quickly work with our engineers at Keller Engineering to update our plans and to start getting the bid document put together. So at this point, we believe we're on course for construction this summer. Again, the same window for the school closure between June 16th and September 1.
Been bid out? Has that been bid out, Gary? The intersection at Levens and Elm?
That's a bid out project,
It's
yeah.
Contracts in place?
Not yet, no. We'll be opening bids towards the late part of May. So, like I said, everything's compressed with this project. I think if someone can pull it off, Michael probably can. But I know he's doing his best right now.
On lead on signals.
Time that we were given to do that project. And as some of you know, that project, 90% of the funding is coming from an award from the Safe Routes to School program through the state of Oregon to the tune of about $1.9 million. There's some developer funds in there for the developments that's happened up around James Howe Road. And then the balance, 5 or 6%, is being picked up by the city's water funds. So that takes us down to Lockreal Node Sewer Phase 1. That has been bid, that has been awarded to Pacific Excavation. We have a pre-construction meeting with them this week on the 1st, and we are currently working with Polk County to get them to give us the permit for Hawthorne Avenue, which is their jurisdiction. And so we're working through some issues with them on that, and also trying to get ODOT to give us the transportation control plan for when the work progresses onto Ellendale. We anticipate that the work will start at the south end of Hawthorne the county version of Hawthorne, and then work north up through that length of Hawthorne, take a left turn going west out about 800 feet down Ellendale. That's a project that we anticipate starting probably late May, early June, and that will take 5 or 6 months to complete that project. Let's see, next one, the Public Works Building. We're working with our contractor, Andy Metcalf Construction, and our architects, Veritone Architecture, working towards a target date for initiation of construction on May 12th. We've had some delays in all of that due to a number of factors. One was we lost a month to the gas company not acting quick to detach the gas line from the old building, which stalled our demo. And more recently, we've had some delays from Pacific Power on how they want to get power to the building, and that has a consequence on some of the configurations and so forth. And that's all been wrapped up too in a value engineering process where we think, as we've looked at this, there's a better way to do the power that might save us about $50,000. So I think the lost time actually is going to pay off. But anyway, we're looking at a construction start for the 12th of this coming month. So that's the Public Works Building. Godsey Road improvements south of the bridge. Council recently approved an amendment to our funding agreement with ODOT on that one, and we are still waiting for them to sign that. And once they do, then we'll launch into an effort to, we already have a full set of plans. And those plans were put together at a time when we were anticipating doing the full length of Godsey. This is, of course, the southern 2/3, what we'll actually be working on. So we have to kind of retrofit those plans with elevations going towards the bridge, and then also some permitting that we need to do. So I'm anticipating this coming fiscal year we'll be involved in getting the plans and permits and then going to bid and constructing this in the summer of '26. That is very important that we build it in the summer of '26 because our funding agreement expires in March of '27. So I think the long-awaited project to improve Godsey is around the corner for us. And that'll be a big relief to a lot of people.
On that, since there was already plans in place and it's been in the works for a long time, is there a way to get it sooner than a year away, or is that just?
Given the timing of things, I wish there were. I think realistically, knowing how these projects go and trying to permit with other entities and agencies, it takes time. But I think we're safe. I think that we can comfortably get into fiscal '26, '27 with plans and a contractor contracted so that I don't know if there's any reason why we couldn't expect a construction start date of July 1, 2026. If that happens, we're going to be fine with the funding agreement. So I'm fairly confident that will happen. Of course, I won't be here to see it, but I believe my successor can pull that off.
How's the bridge affected in that
Excuse me?
process? I'm getting a lot of heat with that bridge still being out of
The bridge?
service, yeah.
Yeah, that's the next thing I was going to talk about
Okay,
here.
go
So I think we recently reported to council that ODOT has awarded tentatively $2.5 million for the bridge project, which is anticipated to be part of the next ODOT STIP, which is the State Transportation Improvement Program, which covers the years of 2027 to 2030. It's tentative because it still needs to go in front of the Transportation Commission to approve it. And with that approval will be approval of our $2.5 million for the bridge. It's my understanding, talking to ODOT people, that just because it's a 27-30 STIP, There are instances where we can do things earlier than 2027. We may be able to address the bridge in 2026, but at any rate, it won't be our project because it's in the STIP and ODOT will be using federal money for that project. The $2.5 million will never come to us. It will come to the benefit of the bridge, and it will likely be built by the state of Oregon because the feds require something that's called a certified agency to build stuff funded by them. We are not a certified agency, but the state of Oregon is. So that's the situation with the bridge. I would believe that we're looking at 2026 or 2027, depending on some of the funding coming out of ODOT. Again, we have most of our plans put together for that bridge. There's some changes we need to do in light of the Ash Creek flood mitigation study we did. We need to raise up just a little bit higher. So all that considered, I think we should be on track for either 2026 or 2027 to address that bridge. So I don't believe we're in any danger of the bridge falling down. If you make the effort to get down into the channel when the water is low, the city put in temporary supports maybe a decade ago. If you go down there and look at them, they're pretty solid. So
Issue is there's a trucking business on the south, just on the south side of the bridge. And if they want to go north, they have to go all the way down.
They do.
See
I know.
Monmouth Cutoff, all the way
know.
through town to get out
yeah.
south.
I don't know if they do this, but the truth of the matter is I've seen a lot of trucks go right over that bridge anyway.
They've been warned by our police department that they can't.
Yeah.
And also the Republic Services, when they pick up garbage, they can't cross that bridge. So they have to
right.
turn around in this same person's parking lot,
Yeah.
which irritates them a little bit. So anyway, okay, thank you.
Sure. And so then moving on to the Fur Villa Road and Ellendale intersection. As we all know, that's a kind of a high-risk intersection for people, particularly turning out of off of Fur Villa onto Ellendale, going either direction. Right now, what we're doing is we've contracted with DKS Associates, which is an engineering firm in Salem, to complete a intersection control evaluation study, which is a step required by ODOT to consider installation of a stoplight on a state highway. So we are well through that evaluation. DKS is. I'm anticipating a completion of that by June 30th. So after that, depending on how that evaluation comes out and it justifies a light there, then I understand ODOT will get on board with that. I'm not sure how that all is going to come together after that, but this important step is being completed now.
County's part of that too, right? The county? Isn't that?
Oh, well, yeah, the Fur Villa to the north is a county road.
Already,
We're to the south, and of course, the state is east-west.
aren't they?
I know when I worked with the state, sorry to interrupt, we had crashes that were just right in that intersection. So that is a state road.
The question I have is the parties that are going to be responsible to pay and have this signal done will be three people or three parties, the county, the state, and the city.
That's what we hope. We hope that the state will pony up for it. I suppose there's a scenario where they say, okay, fine, build a signal, it's up to you guys.
So has the county been communicated to at all on this? I mean, I know we're talking to the
I know
state.
Brian has talked to them, it's early, but I know that he has talked with the county manager about that. I think once we cross this step here and we can justify a signal, then maybe some planning and some negotiations can take place at that point.
See, throw the anchor out if they're not involved early. So I'll just,
You know what goes on with that survey or that study? Is it motor vehicle traffic that they're, like the number of motor vehicle traffic? Is it accident, crashes, or, everything?
No, I don't know that answer, but this is Hudson is in the room. He knows these things. So Tom, can you enlighten us?
Tom, can you come up to a microphone?
Yes, so they look at everything. They're looking at traffic volume going through their recent crashes. They look at what is the road system having it already, like signals, closest signals, is there a network? Pedestrian, like use, pedestrian use in the area. They also look at like the properties, what type of right of way they have, because they have to evaluate signals and roundabouts and all-way stops. It's a complete comprehensive evaluation of the intersection.
How long does a survey like that last? Are they talking about 3 months, 6 months?
Oh, no.
9 months?
You're talking for traffic volume?
Right, for the whole survey.
Well, a lot of that data is already in a system. The state has their trans GIS type of, their online thing. They keep track of all the data already, like crashes. They do basically a vehicle count that looks at turning movements. They see in how long people are, like where they're turning and how long they're waiting, what type of waits there are, what type of queuing gets backed up on what legs and stuff like that. They look at what are the major roads, the minor roads. I mean, it's very comprehensive. The collection of the data is actually pretty quick. They don't do big, long studies. They try to pick the typical, like a weekday with school in session, typical workday, no holidays, stuff like that. Try to get the best, representative of what's going on, and then they'll gather all that extra data and bring it into it.
So we're coming down the stretch here, folks. We got about 5 or 6 more projects. What's that?
I'm out of paper.
So next one I wanted to cover is the James Howe Road Reservoir. Our water master plan calls for the construction of a 2 to 3 million gallon reservoir tank to add to our system in correlation with our population growth. In anticipation of that need, in 2020, the city purchased property just up James Howe Road from the city's north property line north. I think it's probably about 30 acres, something like that. So that's where the new tank will go. I should say in 2022, we applied for a safe drinking water revolving loan from Business Oregon. In 2023 or so, we were awarded that. However, as part of that process, OHA gets to weigh in and tell Business Oregon which of the projects they've approved get priority. We were deprioritized, unfortunately, which means we're in a Business Oregon backwater where at some point when they have money, I guess, then they're going to tell us we can get funded. So we're waiting to get funded, but we're not waiting on the project. At this point, we have, where'd my notes go? Okay, we've advertised a RFQ for design services to begin the design of that reservoir. We are opening bids on May 7th for that. With this next year's budget, we've planned in the design phase for the James Howe Road Reservoir, which at this point, we're looking at a 3 million gallon tank. So that's where we are with that one. And then I would hope that construction could happen the next fiscal year, 26, 27. But of course, that'll be dependent on when the funding becomes available from the state.
Ground or below ground?
We've talked about that. I don't know if we totally know the answer to that. It might be some of both.
Just letting them design whatever.
You know,
That's part of the evaluation that the engineer will do, is to evaluate the different types of construction for a reservoir. The other part they have to hit is all of our other finished water reservoirs are basically all the same elevation. So you want to get it in there at the same elevation so that it can,
Pressure-wise?
pressure-wise, it can work well with the others.
So what's the RFQ for? What are we paying them to do?
Design services.
Design.
Design the reservoir.
It's with an above-ground design or below ground, we just don't know. But that's the, okay.
So that's where we are with that one. Jasper and Ellendale, we've had a couple of folks, actually pedestrians, hit at or near that intersection. So we are currently in the process of installing a lighted pedestrian light crossing there with a bulb out on one side for the curb extension. We're looking at that project being wrapped up by the end of June. So that's just on the cusp here. So the Mercer raw water project, right now, we're working on completing a mitigation and bypass study, which is required by the state before they will give us our water storage permit. We met with them recently and made the case that maybe they could make that requirement for the study a condition of approval so that once they could go ahead and approve it for us and we could start design and do the mitigation study at the same time, but they won't do that. So, and we can only do the mitigation study during the low dry periods. So this summer, that work will be underway. We're under contract right now with Jacobs to complete that study. So I'm projecting into the fall, we'll complete that. At that point, we should be very close to issuance of our permit. And once that's issued, then we will know the parameters of what we can design, and then we'll launch into that. So that's where we are on that project. We also, up at the water treatment plant, our chemical system is very antiquated. Our guys are still hoisting around big bags of soda ash and such. We've had some worker injuries doing all that. So we have recently launched into a project to evaluate and upgrade that system. We know that our fellow cities in the region have much better ways of doing it. And so we're looking at doing the same. We've put that into the budget for next year, and the evaluation is underway at this time. It should be completed by the end of June. We're also, this one amazes me. So several months ago, our new operator at the wastewater treatment plant came to me and said that he would like to upgrade our SCADA system because their operators, we're under contract with them, don't have remote access into the plant on their computers, which most systems went remote a long, long time ago. So we're playing catch up with that project. We right now have Jacobs under a out of scope project under our contract, their operation contract, to upgrade the SCADA system, and they're working on that, which not only will give us outside control of the facility, but also will be strengthening our firewall for that system going into the plant. So, and I'm projecting that will easily be completed by the end of June. And then, okay, the last one. So we have a program where we're continually looking for sewer lines that we can line and kind of seal up. Sewer lines are notorious for roots getting in, and it's not under pressure, so it's easy for tree roots and other things, pipes get crushed. And that's how water gets into the system. That's not really wastewater. And it can have a tremendous impact on how we operate the wastewater plant because, as an example, we're usually processing in a dry time, we're usually processing 2 to 3 million gallons a day. When we have heavy rains, that can go all the way up to 18 where we overflow. So there's significant what we call infill and infiltration, I&I. And we're not alone. Most cities, or all cities, have I&I. And all cities are always chasing their tail, sealing them up. I'm telling you all this because our next I&I project is about to happen on Church Street, where between Ash and Oak, we're going to be going in and lining that line with a, I think that's the spray kind, right, Tom? You've not been involved in that. Anyway, there's different ways they pull line through, and there's also another way that they go in and they spray it all around inside, and it creates a new kind of shell that seals up the pipe. So we have that project on Church Street, which we're looking to get started in about mid-May. A
Ourselves, Gary,
contractor
or
will be
is that-
handling that.
Do we do that ourselves, or is that somebody like a
No,
Gelco?
it
Gelco
requires
or-
specialized equipment and people who know how to do that. We are under contract with West Coast CIPP, which is a specialized firm that lines sewer pipes. And so we're looking at that project starting mid-May, and it should be completed by the end of June. So with that, you should be up to date on public works projects.
Any other questions for Gary? I've got a few. I do too.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your service. I think you've accomplished more in the tenure you've been here than anybody else I've ever seen in this city. And I appreciate everything you've done for us. I know all of us do. So thank you.
I would say that anything that might make me look good is only because of the staff that I've been grateful to have. Wonderful, great, very smart people work for the Public Works Department. They don't get enough praise for what they do, but day in and day out, they're doing the grimy, dirty work and getting things done for the city, and I have the highest respect for them. So I will reflect your thanks to the people who work below me on the structure, yeah.
Before you leave, I've got a few questions. Circling back to the water plant filter project.
Yes,
First I've heard of this, you said it was 20 to 30% increase in water.
treatment.
Take us another 10 years down the road. Explain that. Maybe I've missed out on what that is.
Back in, I think the last time, I think when our filters were installed were early 2000s, I believe. And our filters are, how do I describe it, Tom? What's that affirmation?
The Leopold block that's underneath.
Yeah, but then it's a lot of, for the layman's purposes, there's different types of gravels that are used to filter out different layers of different types of materials that help filter the water. And the way that they designed it back in the early 2000s, since then, those filters have been improved, and they figured out how to get more performance out of a filter by the way they put the layers in and by the underdrain. There's an underdrain at the bottom of the basin, and the way they design the underdrain. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. But all of those changes can increase our processing capacity. Like we're expecting 20 to 30%. We won't truly know until the project is done and we can compare what we used to do to what we can now do. But that's what our engineers tell us. That's huge. Yes, it is huge.
This work at the treatment plant itself where the filters are now?
Yes.
Is it
Improving what we have. Right. And again, most of this work's going to happen going into the fall because we can't do it when, well, actually, no, it's going to be going on in the summer.
They're starting to ramp up for summer and get all the materials in, but we're not going to allow them to take a filter down until October.
Yeah, because we have our high demand in the summer. Yeah, our high demand's in the summer, so it's going to be a fall project after demand falls off. So, but yeah, we're looking at getting a lot more performance out of our existing filters. And the whole project's going to cost us about $1 million, thereabouts. So I think for $1 million, gaining 20 to 30% processing capacity is huge. That's a great buy for the money. So.
Into my second question, the water main on Douglas Street that was budgeted for $1 million and it came in at 413,000. How are we, that's a big difference.
Difference is because we had nothing to, no way without any engineering done to know what it was going to cost us. And so we were pretty sure that $1 million would cover it, and indeed it does cover it.
For the honest answer.
Yeah, so
I've swiped it
actually,
before too.
yeah, it's significant savings over what we guessed, okay? So is that really savings? I don't know, probably not.
A little sensitive to that question because when we budget things and we go out to the citizens and we talk about what things cost and then they're a lot less or they're a lot more, we're
Yeah,
criticized.
the
by it.
challenge has always been that, you know, there are certain projects we know we have to get done, and in about January or so of each year, we're ramping up on the CIP for the next budget, and we're working on that. And we're looking at projects that might happen at that point, we're in January of that given year. We're looking at projects that will begin happening 6 months later to 18 months later. And some of the projects, there's no pre-planning. We have no way of knowing exactly what it costs. And we do our best to do some educated estimates of what's required, and usually we're pretty close. Obviously, we shot high on this one.
Don't get me wrong, less is better.
Yeah,
Way better.
less is better. There's been a few along the line where we haven't done enough. But yeah, I mean, that's the honest truth of how that process happens sometimes. Sometimes we do have more information going in and we can do a better, more accurate projection. But for that project, it was really hard to know for sure. We pretty much knew it was going to be under $1 million. So we didn't want to underfund it. So we put in $1 million into the CIP, and thankfully it's come back 413. Yeah.
Couple of questions. First one, it sounds like this summer is just busy, and I haven't done this long enough to know, what the battle rhythm is each year, each summer. So the busyness this summer, is this by coincidence, or it's just, was there something else that happened that is going to make?
I'll give you a
Hold
very-
on one sec. And I understand that the school issues, that, the ADA ramp and the other school issue. So, I mean, the summertime was the time that you want to have to do the construction. But for everything else, it just sounds like it's going to be overly busy.
It's going to be a very busy summer, yes, no doubt about it. The busiest since I've come along. And I'll give you a very honest response from what I believe you're seeing. And that is that before my arrival, we kind of had a turnstile of public works directors, and they didn't stay very long. And a lot of projects just didn't happen. They got pushed off. Meanwhile, the infrastructure was aging. Now, I'm talking about 10 to 15 years of not a lot happening in the infrastructure for the city. I came and was presented with all these projects, and since then have been working to try to get them going. And we've, in the last 5 years, we've accomplished a lot of them already that I didn't even talk about. But the batch that's coming up this summer has just been kind of that crescendo of getting the processes going, getting things, into planning processes, and they've tracked along to the point where this summer we have what's in front of us. So I think the city will be fine. It might be a challenge, but ultimately we'll get the job done. And it'll be great because then we're going to be in a lot better situation than we've been for the last couple of decades.
And I heard you say something about the Hawthorne construction, the sewer construction, and there was an issue mostly with Polk County. What kind of issues are we talking about? Is that like a citizen issue, or is that something to do with Polk County?
It's the conditions around the permit. Polk County would like us to have an agreement between the two entities, which is not required. We've looked at the agreement, and we don't believe that it's probably the city's best interest to do it. We'd rather just have your typical permit. And I know Brian has talked with the county manager, and and he's agreed to that. I understand that he's agreed to it. And so I'm anticipating that the log jam is going to let go here in the next day or two. But we'll see. But it's just kind of inter-county city kind of stuff. No one's mad at anybody. No one's throwing tomatoes. They're just working things out.
And I want to double down on what Larry said. I've only been on here in this function for about 2.5 years, and I've learned a lot just by listening to you. And I don't know how often you're commended about the work that you do, but in your legacy, you could leave Dallas, or if you still live in Dallas, you can point to things and say, whether you're with your family or with your friends, it's like, you see that? You like that? I played a part in that. But not only did you play a part in it, but your people played a part in it. And you made Dallas, the community, a better place to live in. Yeah, I want you to know that as you're heading out, because sometimes you look back at your legacy and you don't really recognize all the stuff that you've done. So I want to give you a public kind of recognition. You get private recognitions all the time from your boss and stuff like that, but I want you to have a private one in this moment.
That does mean something to me. Thank you. After, I've been in this business in one form or another for 37 years. So it at times can be a thankless job, but yeah, there's a lot that we get done, and we know that for ourselves, and that's all I need. But thank you.
Paycheck doesn't always do it,
No, but feeling like you've made a difference in the world, that's why I got into the business, and I think it's mission accomplished. So anyway, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? All right, I'll turn the meeting over to Emily for final comments, if you have any comments.
Have anything?
All right, if no one has